Okay, so we're 24 hours now after England and Ghana, and I was less than impressed, less than inspired. So, the first thing, the quality of opposition. Now, Bellingham, Rice, I could go through the whole squad, but there's some serious talent in the England team, and especially off the bench, right? For every Anthony Gordon, who hasn't been that great, but for every Anthony Gordon that comes off, there's a Marcus Rashford. And you've got to think across the starting 11, you could swap players out, probably with the exception of the likes of Harry Kane, and not really notice a huge drop off. But what really got me is actually something which I'm going to mention about the USA and Paraguay game. So I love that game because it had goals, it had free flowing football, it had an awesome atmosphere, and actually there was a lot of space in behind. And that's why I think I enjoyed watching it, but I was watching it with a critical eye as well, because all I could think every time the USA got through was you would never get this time and space in behind in the Premier League. And it shows the level of where their players, the Paraguay players, play in, week out. And that got me thinking when I was watching England yesterday, you think Thomas Tuchel has managed in the Premier League. He's won a Champions League with Chelsea. He was brought in because of that no-nonsense tactical prowess of knowing how to manage Premier League players. The vast majority, bar Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane, play in the Premier League. And what really got me is I'm thinking, you know this inside out. You see this week in, week out in the Premier League. You see it where a away team comes to a home team of a big club and parks the bus, right? And you see it where they don't give any space. They have two banks of four, maybe a one and then a one, or a bank of 5-4 and then one, and hit you on the counter. And that's what we constantly saw. We constantly saw that yesterday. And with Concert, no idea why that didn't go to VAR. I was really surprised. I felt like I was the only one at the time with the people I was watching it with saying, isn't that a Stonewall penalty? Pickford could have gone either way. I mean, it was both off the ball, but again, could have gone to VAR, could have been unlucky. And that's the thing, as these tournaments progress, you think people usually keep a few receipts, right? I think FIFA are doing that. I'll be surprised if Infantino isn't having a word to say, make sure that that gets made up in the later rounds, that England don't get away with the huge decisions. I don't know if you noticed, but Bellingham also covering his mouth. Of course, we saw a sending off, but different rules for England. Not necessarily complaining, just saying that England got away with a lot. Starting lineup. Yes, Jed Spence did all right, not bad. But when he was replaced by O'Reilly, you saw how free-flowing the football was on that side. So why swap him out? I didn't see what Spence bought differently. And also what I found really strange is Tuchel goes early with substitution and makes bold substitutions. But it seemed like the play was really flat. And I think when you're playing against a 5-4-1 or two banks of four and a low block and a mid block, you're going to see that week in, week out in the Premier League. So my point about the USA and Paraguay is I don't even think you get that much space in behind in the Premier League against last season's Wolves, what to speak about an international team. So Tuchel would have been watching these games. England would have been watching these games and thinking, okay, if teams are going to have a go at us, we've got space. If teams want to go toe-to-toe, talent, we can go toe-to-toe. But Ghana were always going to sit back. They were always going to park the bus. So when they saw that at half-time, I don't know why we didn't go for the jugular. I don't know why we didn't throw on a Morgan Rogers earlier or go with two at the top, have an Ollie Watkins, have an even Tony. Also, it's baffling me how Kobbie Mainoo isn't getting any minutes. And not just because I'm a huge fan of him, but Elliot Anderson was just recycling possession slowly but surely. But then to basically make an attacking player play deeper after Elliot Anderson came on doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So the shape wasn't changed. Thomas Tuchel would have seen this week in, week out with his experience in the Premier League. The other games you saw that people are not going blow for blow. There's been a fair few boring matches going on, and it wasn't an Uzbekistan where Portugal could run riot because Ghana didn't come to play football. So what I'm really struggling to understand is what are the lessons that they're going to take away from this England squad, because talent's not the issue. And before, under the likes of Southgate, it used to be talent was never the issue, but tactics were. We weren't bold enough, we weren't brave enough. But now, in Champions League winning Tuchel, a no-nonsense manager who will read out the riot act just to get things done, and will sling a popular player off and put on a player that he thinks will do a better job. And he has been doing that, but the result was the same. It was boring, it was slow, it was parking the bus. There's no excuses around not being acclimatized to the time zone. It was the second game in. The first game would have knocked some stuff in out of the players, but these are Premier League footballers for the most part, with the exception of a older Harry Kane dropping deeper, but is used in that way and plays to his strengths, and Tuchel does a good job there. And Bellingham, who's an all-action midfielder, even he was getting super frustrated, which I found surprising. I was thinking it was a time that called for cooler heads, proper leadership on the ball. I think Declan Rice had a decent game, but really what I want to see now in this last game against Panama is absolutely going for it, playing two at the top, giving those wingers expansive time. Anthony Gordon, I think, needs dropping now. Freshen up the squad. Start Rashford from the start. Start a Morgan Rogers from the start. Definitely don't play Jed Spence, and really go for the jugular, because it was fortunate. There probably should have been a penalty, in my view, against England for Konsa. Apart from the Harry Kane miss on his left foot on the half volley, there was nothing really that you could have said that England deserved more than that. And the final point is when Jude Bellingham was given whatever they're calling the man of the match nowadays, the most influential person on the pitch or whatnot, he actually said should have gone to a Ghana player. And if you look at the photo of him holding that trophy, he looks quite morose. But look, Ghana came to do a job. They did a job well. Credit to them. They celebrated like it was a win, and so they should, because Carlos Queiroz, I'm old enough to remember him being the Man United assistant, getting the job at Real Madrid, but has never been that top tier manager. So these weren't tactics that, tactician against tactician. This wasn't Pep versus Klopp. This was Tuchel versus a very mid manager who was going to always play a low block with a few Prem players knocking around, and the rest primarily playing in the likes of relegation battling Auxerre. So really trying to understand what the tactics were meant to play out as, because everything was there for the taking. And now England have made it that they probably do need to get something in their last game. And if the knockouts do end up being around Mexico are not necessarily going to try and play England off the pitch, right? No one will really, apart from France, Portugal, Spain, maybe. Everyone else, maybe also Argentina, everyone else are really going to play a bit more tactical football. So the reason why you got rid of, the English hero complex in Gareth Southgate is to bring in the pragmatic tactician, no-nonsense manager. And that hasn't bared fruits in this game, and you don't get a lot of opportunities to get it wrong. So hopefully that's the ironing out of the creases from Thomas Tuchel. And the players were, of course, on the pitch. They looked flat. You can't blame it all on the manager, but you got to have known that that was going to play out that way, and that you had to do something different. So where's the in-game management? Where is, at the hydration break, that captain and that vice captain running over Tuchel saying, hey, do we implement plan B now? Do we implement plan C now? Because it just seemed really flat. And then it seemed about 86 minutes, England started to show some desperation. And it's like, well, where was that from minute 25? Because England, talent's never been the issue. It is probably an on-field leadership thing as well. But hopefully Tuchel learns from this and we see some better football going forward. So I'll leave it at that. And then the next time I feel like there was a game worthy speaking of, I'll jump back on. But for now, tell me what you think.